Just think of it as the rough draft of the podcast world. This is the Newbie Writers Podcast with your hosts, Damien Both and Catherine Bramkamp.
Hey, this is episode 201 of the Newbie Writers Podcast. We had last week off. We're too tired, couldn't be bothered talking to each other.
It was too much. Yeah. Just too much effort.
I know. That's fine. Got visitation rights of the podcast.
Yes.
Yeah. If we ever got podcast divorce, how do we divvy that up?
I know. I don't know. I think that's why it's kind of like why I will stay married to my husband forever. It's like this breaking up is like going to be way too hard. Yeah. So I think I'll just make an effort.
You can have the romance authors.
Hey, I like the romance authors. Okay.
Yeah.
I'll take them.
Yeah. Plus, it was also my birthday midweek.
So tell me what you did for your birthday.
Nothing.
Because I was insisting that you should have had fun, but the answer was not what I expected.
I don't do fun. But we did go out to dinner. It was fine. And Sharon cooked an amazing lemon meringue pie. That's
awesome.
Yeah, my favourite. Smashed that in. Felt quite ill. Apparently not supposed to eat the whole thing at once.
Apparently not. All right.
But we did have an interesting thing. We went out to dinner and we're sitting there. And the boy, he just looks at Sharon and says, "Mum, dragons are real." And she's like, "No, they're not." And he says, "Yes, they are. I know they're real. We read a book about it." And
must be true.
Yeah. And I'm going, "Yeah, they're true. Yeah, they exist." He's like, "See, they do exist, right, Dad?" "Yes, they do." And Sharon's going, "There's a thing called fiction, where you."
I can see where there's some decided differences in the marriage, yeah. Right?
It's just that there's a thing called fiction. People just, they make a story up in their head and away they go, and that becomes a book. And they've written something about dragons. He's like, "No, a dragon could destroy the world. I've seen them. I've seen a dragon." And so this was where it cracked me up, and I could see people starting to listen because he was talking quite loudly, and
of course.
And she goes, "And where have you seen a dragon?" He goes, dead straight face, he goes, "Russia, duh."
Russia, duh?
Russia?
Russia is very far away from Australia, just saying.
And cold. And she's like, "And when the hell did you go to Russia?" He says, "Well, when I was in your tummy and you went on holiday." And I was like, "No, I'm done." I said, "Yeah. Sharon, when did you go to Russia?" She's like, "Shut up. Shut up." So, yeah. They do exist, clearly.
I think that's a wonderful birthday conversation. It's great.
And I could see there was a couple just behind us. And I don't know, they're on some sort of romantic thing, and she's just staring at us. And then she's looking at her partner, and she gave him that look of, "Oh, see, this is why I want to have children." I felt like going, just take him.
Just take him.
Bring him back tomorrow. She'll be fine.
The adoption program is like, just in case you were really not clear, we've got something for you.
Yeah, I don't know. There should be a thing like that, like try before you buy. You get those people who are like, "Oh, I so want children," and then I don't know. You should be able to donate your kid if they're sick. Like, this sounds bad.
Yeah, we're in trouble.
I am.
You want to practice going to the principal's office.
I'm digging a hole here, but it's like, "Oh yeah, he's had a bit of the vomits. You can have him if you're so keen on kids." And then they give him back. "Oh, he just barfed everywhere. I don't want them anymore."
He's broken. You need to take him.
Yeah, he knocked over a whole aisle of apples. Just stuff like that.
Yeah. I think they do. Usually, they're the practice children are called like nieces and nephews. So you if you're smart, you take on, an afternoon with one of them.
I don't know, but you can still have fun because you can get away with it then. Because you're like, "Yeah, I'm the cool uncle."
Right. Yeah. I'm not saying that it's perfect, but it does give you an idea of the at least the time commitment.
Yes, but if you were paying for it, if it was like, "Oh, here's $100," I'm paying $100 to be a temp parent for the day to see if I like this concept, then it would be different, wouldn't it? You will call me Dad. I don't know.
just to try it out. Let's see how this works.
You know, and you could have the thing like you've paid your money, you're trying out what it's like to be a parent, and part of the thing is you say to the kid, they've got to be old enough that you can coach them a bit and say, all right, you need to incessantly use that tone and just go, ma'am, ma'am, ma'am. And you go, what? No, nothing. There's a cool ad on TV. Yeah, that's where it should be. Anyway, we've got a guest on. I've ranted enough. And, anyway. Aletta.
Anyway.
I want to say Aletta. I want to. How do you pronounce your name properly?
Aletta.
Aletta. Right.
Aletta.
We'll call you Susan. It's an interesting name, though. What's the origins of that?
Oh, it's actually a wonderful name story. It's my third name, and it's my maternal grandmother's name. My parents are Dutch, and in the Dutch tradition, the oldest daughter gets the two grandmothers' names as middle names.
Right.
And so I have a different first name and second name.
Mm.
And I hated my first name when I was a kid, couldn't stand it, because people called me Myrtle the Turtle and Merle Haggard. I was actually named after Merle Oberon, a really great actress. My second name was my grandmother's name, and I found out when I went to live in the south of France and I worked as a nanny, Madame gave me some more help with my names because she looked at my first name. Do either of you speak French?
No.
Okay, well, you'll have to look this up because I can't say it out loud. You'll probably have to bleep it out. M-E-R-D-E, which is one letter away from my name. And she said, no, that won't do because with a nanny and 5 kids, you're never going to hear the end of it with that name. What is your second name? And it is Divertje. She says, I can't even say that. And I went, thank goodness, because I didn't like that name. And so she pronounced, you will be Aletta.
Right.
And I thought, well, that's cool. Nobody knows me here. So, and besides, she's my boss. So I will be Aletta.
Right.
Did it take a while to get used to it then? So when she's calling out, Aletta, Aletta, and you're like, what is that racket? Oh, that's me. Hello.
Who is that? Go find her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've lost one of them. Yeah.
It was harder for me to come back to, at that point, to Canada and have people call me Merle again. So then I moved again later on to California. And after about a month, I realized, hey, I only know about 4 people here. I can go back to Aletta.
Yeah.
So I did. And I've kept that way ever since. I do have to watch it with legal documents because they get a little fussy sometimes about that.
Just a tad, right?
Yeah, just a tad, even though it's a legal middle name.
Yeah, no, they get very, especially TSA and your passports, very wound around the axle.
See,
So now, to Damien, to your point, I'll go to a doctor's office now, and I'll be sitting there waiting, and they'll be calling, Merle, Merle. Where is that person? Why don't they get up?
it's really irresponsible. They didn't show up. They're calling them out. Oh, yeah. I don't know. At least, look, I'm against things like author names, but I think you win because it's a genuine name. You're just like, oh, I didn't like the first 2. Try again. Wow.
Yeah.
Well, that's interesting. At least you got a cool story about it. And it wasn't just well, I read this in the paper and I thought, what a cool name. And that's going to be my author name from now on.
Well, actually, I used it early on because as a kid it was torture. But when I became a trainer and I had to do endless training workshops for, at the time, mostly bankers and senior people and stuff like that, and it was get really boring for people to say, hi, my name is X and I work in this department and I've been here for 5 years and I came to this workshop because I need to learn to manage better. And everybody was asleep in 2 seconds. So what I did was I wrote my full name on a flip chart outside the door. And I said, here's your first instruction. You're to sit down and think about a story about your name.
Oh,
And
nice.
then you have to sign into the class here. So then I solved the problem of who goes next because they just did it in the order that they came in.
Very cool. That was clever.
So did you have any interesting then things like if I put, I am Damien, Destroyer of Worlds. Did you have anyone be that creative, or was it like, I'm Bruce from accounts?
No, I was talking about working with bankers.
Right. So, yes.
I'm a recovering banker, but these days I don't like to talk about that.
All right, duly noted. So, ask more questions about banks. Wow, yeah, being a banker, that'd be a bit of a dirty word anyway, really, wouldn't it?
Yep.
Yeah, it is nowadays. It wasn't then. Yeah.
Mm.
But it was the only job I could get. I had a degree in English and French literature. Where else?
Woohoo! I have 2 degrees in English. Nothing like it for getting a job right out the gate, right?
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, but hang on. How desperate must like the Bank of America be if they've got all these people and you walk in there and go, well, I've actually got a degree in this and English. And they go, oh, cool, so you can speak English. Okay, and French. You're hired. I don't know. That's weird. Anyway, you said you didn't want to talk about it, so we'll shift away from the actual bank thing. That's fine. So
let's... Oh, you go ahead.
I was going to say, the title of your thing is, your book is My Real Job is Being an Artist. So you're the only one out of all the artists in the world that get paid?
No, I'm not. As a matter of fact, a number of my clients have made over $100,000 a year, which is, a nice salary for any kind of job.
That's all right.
But it does take an awful lot of work, and it does take a lot more work. But it can be done. Can be done.
So let's just jump right into it. How can this be done? Because I know a lot of, and we're writers on the show. So how can writers make this their job? What have you noticed in your years, and what do you suggest, from the book?
Well, the first thing is that you have to believe it yourself. I mean, that title came out of the fact that I mentioned, I'll go back to being a banker. Okay, now I'll bring it back up. The only reason I say that is the banks in the U.S. have not had a good run, and people don't like them that much. But yes. That would be yes. But this was Canadian banks, and they've always been very nice.
Oh, okay. Well, we'll go with Canadian banks. I'll give you the benefit of the doubt on that.
But so, where were we?
We were making $100,000 by being artists.
$100,000 thing, yeah, right. Okay, so the way to start with that is to think about what my parents said to me. The same thing was when I had been working in a bank. I got a job as a trainee after 65 job applications. Wow. I worked my way up, and eventually was in charge of management training and operation training worldwide. And that was a really good job. Yeah. But when I got in it, I liked a lot of it. I didn't, I had to pretend to be somebody else when I was at work. But, apart from that, it was fine. And it was a very good pay, lots of travel. But I got sick while I was doing it. And so I decided that maybe part of it was I was working in a sick building and I was working about 90 hours a week. So I decided that it was time to get out of that. And that was when I began to look into this whole thing of, well, how do I make a living if I'm not employed? And it was the beginning of the time when employment was no longer a nice security blanket for anybody. Right. So I thought I may as well get out there and being an entrepreneur. So first I learned about being an entrepreneur. And if you're going to be an artist who's going to make money, you have to understand that. Okay. You can't ignore it. Your job number one is always to have the very best art you can make and have it be a really strong signature that stands out, because that makes it a lot easier to market. But the second thing is that you have to understand how to be an entrepreneur. And if you don't get that, then you're not going to get a whole lot further. And then the third thing is most people think you have to understand the art market, but you don't. You have to simply understand how to build relationships with people anywhere, anytime. And so this is where some of these things I think do cross over with writers. And now that I've published a book, I'm applying a lot of the same things to getting this first book out. And relationships is really where all the sales come from. And frankly, artists are lucky. It's not like, my dentist has a little bit of a harder time striking up a conversation about what do you do.
Yeah, but they shouldn't talk to you anyway. That's great.
Well, they always do, especially when you got all that equipment in your mouth, right?
I know, but they always have to ask you the biggest questions like, hey, how's work been? And you go, okay. stupid. Just, you know.
Yeah, so Catherine, those would be, I think, the top three things. Now, my book is actually not about all of that. My book is, before you decide to do all of this, make sure you know. There's an example is I was in the restaurant business for a while, and almost everybody I know was so excited when they knew somebody who was in the restaurant business and could do catering and all that and had a restaurant, because they always wanted a restaurant. And then when you talk to artists and people who collect art, a lot of them, I always wanted a gallery or something. And they have really unrealistic expectations about what it's like. An airline story. When I was working as an entrepreneur, I used to travel back and forth to Chicago from Toronto twice a month to do a consulting job in Chicago. And on the way there and back, I would sit with a sketchbook because I was making my own art in the few hours I had left. And I would draw. And I was always traveling business class because I would keep turning my air miles over so that I could have that comfort. And the attendant came along and said, "Oh, how nice you're coloring." And I don't play poker because I don't have a good poker face. So I lowered my face. And then I composed myself, and then I looked up at her and I smiled. I said, "Yes, and isn't it great? People pay me for this."
Good.
And I didn't have, I had a tiny bit of charge, but not much in my voice. And she came back to talk to me about it. Oh. So there's an example of completely not in a marketing mode of any kind, just having a conversation with someone about what I do. And people are fascinated by writers and artists and musicians.
So, but then you should have just said to her, "Oh, that's so nice. You hand out peanuts."
I don't know if that would engender a good conversation, though, and then she'd spit in your coffee, so maybe not.
Yeah, right.
I did hear there was a news report only last week about, is it China Airlines is clamping down on idiots on planes because they've had too many incidents of people opening the emergency door during flight when they get agitated.
Oh, wow.
And I'm just thinking, well, there's another country I can't fly to. Like, at what point do you think, I'm going to open this door? It'll be fine.
This looks like it's unoccupied. Let's go.
Yeah. Sorry, I was
and
looking
they're
for
hard to open. It's not like you wouldn't figure out that maybe this isn't the bathroom door.
Yeah.
Big arms on it, signs right in front of your face. Don't open this. It's like,
God.
But it comes with a slide.
Yeah, exactly.
This is true. Actually, now it all makes sense.
Yeah.
I don't know. Anyway.
So you were working at banks, feeling like you needed to do. So you did art on the side. Let's say, would that be?
Yeah. Well, actually,
fair assessment.
The art on the side didn't start until I got sick. I have neurosystemic lupus, and that is an autoimmune disease where the body doesn't know the difference between invading bacteria and its own cells, and so it attacks itself. And being the achiever, I decided there's three kinds. There's discoid, there's systemic, and neurosystemic. So I went for neurosystemic, and
that was the best.
Because that was the best.
Sounds like an episode of House.
Yeah. Oh, please. And when I figured out what it was after I'd had my first stroke. And so I had 2 strokes when I was just under 40.
Man.
Oh, wow.
And I completely unprepared for it and didn't know what was going on. So when the art happened was by the time I was starting to be able to get out and about again and do physio and things like that, friends would take turns taking me places, and I saw a sign that said "Art for the Absolute Beginner," and I went, "That would be me." And I'm really bored with just watching Star Trek reruns. I need to get out and do something. So I did that. It was a great thing to do because it was across town, so it took time, energy, and money that I didn't have a lot of. But I was determined. And anybody who knows me will tell you that I'm like a dog with a favorite bone. Do not get in my way. So I did that, and what was really surprising was that I was absolutely furious about being so sick. That was not what I expected to discover, but the art helped me discover that, and I was actually interviewed about that in another book that is a series called Courageous Stories of Inspiration. But it's what made me realize that, yeah, I could do that again, because it had been knocked out of me in grade 3 by an art teacher who told me I was drawing my favorite tree wrong. And yeah, and I believed her. I really did. So I went back to doing that, and it was wonderful. And then I incorporated it into my doing workshops on creative problem solving, because there's only so far you can take all of these business models, and they're good, but people have to do things and have experiences to learn. And I was doing really well with that until one day, I was doing something at WorldCom, which doesn't exist anymore, but it was a huge telecom company. And I was working with all the vice presidents, and we had the boardroom, and the table was littered with every kind of art supply, thinker toys, puzzles, you name it, it was in there. And somebody left the door open, and one of the staff came by, one of the senior managers came by and saw this happening, and suddenly the whole building knew. And the senior manager, whose staff it was, got really upset, said, "Oh, they can't see me doing this." And it was, okay, it's time. I can't work undercover anymore. I got to get out of here. And so that's when I actually decided I was going to really make art the core of my life. And I shifted my whole business, all my coaching, all my classes, etc., all around that.
Okay.
So when you went to a art class, though, for the first time, what did they make you do? Like, you sit down and they're going, right, here's the naked model, or is it just a case of you start from the real basics? Here's a line, here's a circle.
Oh, no, it wasn't even anything like that. It's actually the same thing as what makes for a really good art career is you don't start with those things. You have to start with the mindset, because the mindset really affects everything. And so in this class, I didn't know what it was going to be like. I had no idea. But these two women were very adept. First thing they had us do was they had us listen to a couple of audio tapes of artists talking about how they got started. And then they did a little meditation with us, a closed-eyed meditation where they described a scene. And when we opened our eyes, the other assistant had put art materials, and paper in front of us. And we were to draw whatever we had experienced while we were listening to them. Oh. And so each week we had different materials and a different stimulus. They did sometimes bring out examples of things, but mostly they wanted us to bring out what the art was that we had to bring out. And so for me, it was just it was a great meditation, a moving meditation, because for that time that I was in that class, I didn't think about anything else.
But did it get frustrating? I mean, I'm one of those that if I was sitting in there, I'd be trying to draw something, and I'd get annoyed saying, this doesn't look like what's in my head.
Yeah, that's my problem too.
Well, then you're in the wrong class. And also, that tells me that you've got a certain idea of what good art would look like, or what the art you want to produce would look like.
Well, no, I'm just a perfectionist. So if I wanted to do a portrait, and then in my I had, oh, that's a nice portrait, I can draw that, and then it's a stick figure on the paper, we've got a big disconnect.
Yeah, well, I made a lot of money with that kind of art, so I wouldn't throw that away.
Catherine, we've got our book cover.
Oh no, because we have a whole chapter in the book about not doing your own covers, so I don't think we can violate that. That's been our own advice.
Yeah,
yes, no, I didn't do my own cover, that's for sure.
Oh, really? Because that was going to be my question. I was like, well, hang on, you're an artist. You kind of can, do your own cover and get away with it and discredit our entire chapter in our book.
That's right.
No, I don't know what's in your book, but artists are not graphic designers. So that means that they cannot necessarily do it. There are a lot of graphic designers who have later on said, okay, I'm retiring now and I'm going to do fine art. and so they can do their own graphics and all of their own work. But it's still a good idea to have other eyes on it. The person who did my book cover, I met actually while I was working in the bank.
You can't escape from it.
For you, so you don't have to. And he is a brilliant designer. He asked me 11 questions about the projects I was working on. He came back with 3 designs, and the very first one I saw went, "This is it. You absolutely captured what I needed." So I went back to him when I was with Artist Career Training. I had him redesign the logo a couple of times already. He's done a lot of stuff for me. So he produced this book cover, and the illustration was also commissioned by someone, by him, someone that he knew. So he managed that whole process, so I didn't have to deal with that.
Does that make life a little bit easier? Because you can be a bit more critical then, so you know how you want your book to look. So you can say, well, no, I don't like that, and you need to go back to it, rather than you saying, look, I poured my heart and soul into this cover, and what do you think?
Yeah, well, if, like everything, like for writers is the same thing, but for artists too, before you contract with somebody like that, make sure that you know that you can describe the project to them and the outcome you want. And secondly, that the terms of how that works are really outlined. For example, I wanted to be able to use this image. Now I'm going to use this to launch 3 ebooks. It's now 1 paperback. I'm going to split it into 3 ebooks. I'm also going to create a 9-week program out of it. I have all of these things that I want to use this for. And so rather than say, okay, I'll pay for leasing the cover design, I want to own it.
Yeah.
So I bought full rights to it.
Wow. Well, that's
Yeah,
right.
I definitely would agree with that approach, so that you can brand the rest of what the projects are as you cut and paste your book and use it for other things. You want to have that very consistent, even if it's a piece of it. Like even if you did like the green, swath on the on the bottom, it's got a feel to it, or your arch with the trail in the middle. Yeah, you want to be able to have, and sometimes I ask for all the pieces.
Yeah, we got that too, and you'll see inside the book there, each section has a piece of this, because this is designed to represent the journey from all I want to do is my art to, oh, I get it, I can do my art and I have to do the business.
Does that really screams to then trying to be a bit more subjective and making it a business, or making it you take the emotion out of it by saying, well, okay, I need a cover, I'll go find someone to do that. I'm just thinking back to, we've mentioned this on the show before, where I had seen someone who posted up a hand-drawn picture that was less than ideal, and they're like, check out my new book cover. And I said, is this a concept? And they said, no, I've drawn this. It's amazing. It's going to be my book cover. And I'm like, oh, okay. So it looks like shit. Which is the wrong term to use. Actually, no, I said it looks like crap.
There you go. I think it was crap, which was a nicer phrase.
Yeah, well, I was trying to be polite. And and they got really offended. Don't know why. And all of the people that were following them were saying, this is the best thing I've ever seen. This is amazing. I'm going, are you people, what is wrong with you? So
it's not. I agree with you.
I think, at some point you've got to step away, don't you? And say, well, I've done my bit. I've written the book. I've got the content. Now I'll put that in the hands of the people that do this for a living, a cover designer, an editor, that sort of thing.
Many editors.
Yeah.
Oh,
A writing coach, many editors. It started with Judy Baker. That's how I met Catherine. And Judy was a marketing coach who I was at the point of saying, I need to refresh my business. I'm really bored now. And she introduced me to you and a whole suite of people who eventually got involved in the book. The very first one was a writing coach, and that was an incredible learning experience where I was not clear enough on this whole process to know what I was getting into. And for a while, because I didn't know how to manage the process, I lost my voice in the book. And it took a while to get it back. I had to go back in and rewrite a lot of stuff to get my voice back, because my voice is very different from what the coach was introducing. And And that's why it was a good thing to send out preview copies to peer readers ahead of time. They all caught that. They said, hey, this stuff on this page, this didn't sound like you. And I said, no,
it takes that.
Pardon?
Sometimes it takes that. It takes somebody else reading it to say,
Reading it, yeah. Well, I felt it. I mean, I was having trouble managing the process because I hadn't done a solid enough job of, the contract was fine, but negotiating, contract's only good as the relationship underneath. And what I hadn't done was talk about what happens if we don't agree on things. And now, you know, every time you hire someone, that's one of the questions to ask them.
Yeah.
That's an interesting question. I haven't thought of that before.
How many times do you get to go through it? So with the publisher I work with, you get, as a author, you get 2 opportunities to say, no, this isn't right. No, this isn't right. And so I blew through those pretty well on a very bad concept. And finally the graphic designer said, no, just stop. This is what it's going to look like. And I looked at it and I said, oh, that's a lot better. You're right.
It's about letting go.
Yeah.
Really?
And trusting people to be professional and that they know what they're doing. And a lot of artists and authors in particular have a difficult time with that because we're in the middle of either handing everything off and having it all taken care of by third parties, or you own the whole blasted thing, and then you start getting like, it must be all about me, and I can't, you know, no one else knows how to do this better than me, and it's all about me, me, me. Not a good place to be.
No, is that where that not being able to let go comes into play? You think, well, I can't trust someone to give me the cover I want or edit this properly, and you end up with the train wrecks on Amazon.
Right, right.
Self-opinionated.
Yeah, very, very much. So when you talk about being an artist, are you painting? What is your art that you are doing full-time as your real job?
Well, I have a couple. Actually, my real job for now still is the artist career training because I've been working in the United States and California under a work visa, which only allows me to do that. It does not allow me to sell any of my own art.
Oh, interesting.
So that's it. Yeah, it's very, very restrictive. And so that was fine because I had enough to do with that, and then the book was a whole other project. But now I have a base in British Columbia as well as in California, and so now I have a fabulous studio here. It is amazing. It's full of light. It's cold, but it's full of light. And my work, all of my work, actually, not just my art, but everything I do, I'm a layerist. And that means that everything, if you peel off the top layer, underneath you'll see some other things. And so for me in art, that means that I work with layers of paper or layers of paint or layers of material. And then I will also do things like paint on both sides of plate glass. There's always more than a single layer involved. And often the previous layers disappear underneath and they disappear and you never know what's going to come up next. But that's the art. But it's interesting that my work is like that too. Because I have to look underneath as a coach and a trainer. I have to be really aware of what's going on underneath the surface with the people I'm coaching and training. And so I'm like an archaeologist, looking for the clues to get them where they tell me they want to go. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of like, that would be like a commission in art. So doing it there, I get some direction. When I'm in my studio, I can do whatever I want. And then I'm also an emerging electric bass player.
Ah.
And I'm currently working on The Wind Cries Mary, which is just an amazing ballad.
I'm a bass player. I haven't played bass for a while, actually. Yes, but I don't know. I was in a heavy metal band for years.
Yeah, you were, yeah.
I know. That's why I'm bald now. It's true.
No, that's because you can't hear now. That's what that is.
What?
Yeah.
I don't know. My hearing is messed up, I've got to admit. I have trouble hearing, deciphering people when they mumble or speak at me. But yeah, I can be lying in bed and I'll say to Sharon, can you hear that traffic on that main road? And she's like, that's 5 minutes away. Yeah.
Yes.
It's bizarre. It must be a frequency thing. But yes.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
No, bass playing's
That's
cool.
great.
You gain a star in my book, that's fine. We have to put that in the
Oh,
show
thank
notes.
you.
Bass
Yeah, on my
playing.
Facebook page, you can see me on stage. I have a very generous bass teacher who actually included me in his band. And here's, for a newbie bass player, the first thing that I said to him was, I just want to learn to play. I want to have fun. So he went, okay, fine. Never read music, never studied it or anything. So I started, at the end of my last decade. And so he starts teaching me things. And then he says, oh, hey, I've got a couple of gigs coming up and I need a bass player. So I can get someone for part of the gig. Can you do some? I went, what? This is supposed to be fun. But it was really interesting when I did it. The best part of it was that the first night we did it was in a small bar in San Francisco, South San Francisco, not in the best part of town. But the rest of the band was pretty substantial, large men, so that was fine. And the bar was only about maybe a third full when we got there, and then a lot of those people left because we got there early to set up. And by the time the show came, there might be about 13 people in the room, and half of them were so drunk they could barely stand up.
They're the
That's
best
a good
gigs.
starting audience, though. That's
Well,
great.
I said to Andrew, I said, this is perfect. They're not going to
Yeah.
notice.
Yeah.
They're not going to know. It's awesome.
It's all,
So that was my first instance. And then a few more times later, I got to go on with them. And the Facebook page shows there's a really great place called Little Fox Theater in Redwood City. And it has great music there, and they have jam nights. And Kenny Blue Ray, my teacher, was the band that they would have for the regular band, and then people would join in and they would just gig. So I went up for his set, and we had rehearsed for months, 4 pieces that I could play perfectly. We did that. It was great. I got off the stage, starting to walk off the stage, and the MC goes, no, wait, we need you up here. We don't have a bass player for the next round. I said, no, sorry, I only play with Kenny.
oh, come on.
And walked off the stage because I didn't know the key of anything. I didn't know any notes. All I could do was I'm really good at patterns.
Yeah.
It's again a coaching skill and it's an art skill. And I'm really good at patterns, so I can learn songs pretty easily, even if they're not 12-bar blues.
Yeah.
So, but that didn't mean if the guy says, all right, let's do a shuffle in A. Well, now I can do that.
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
Then I couldn't.
I don't know. If you know 12-bar blues, then you're pretty much set, really. That's a big, massive statement. But anyway, yes, I used to love having those shows where you'd get there and it'd be packed, and then by the end of it, you're like, thanks, Mum, thanks, Dad.
Yeah.
We had one of those where it was literally just my parents. I don't know why they even turned up, to be honest.
Because we like to support our children.
And apparently, and Mum still says it after. She's like, I said to your dad, God, can you understand what they're doing? Yeah. And then you get the other extreme of things where you can look at and you go, again, and Catherine and I were talking about something other completely not related, but being up a ladder and your brain starts to think about things like, if I fall. It's a bit the same when you're performing. You can be halfway through something, look and go, wow, there's a lot of people here. Don't. That is the worst thought to have because then you become self-conscious.
Right. Right. And suddenly it's like, oh, what am I doing? And then you look at your hands. It's like, uh-oh.
But you see, we got to a point, though, our drummer wasn't all that bright. And, Aletta, you can go through this as well. But we had ours just stop halfway through a song once.
Oh.
And I looked back at him, and I just yelled, what? He leans forward, he goes, what song were we playing? Oh, yeah. Someone get me a shovel.
Funny.
Anyway.
That's pretty funny. So you teach. One of the things that I've noticed about artists who make money as artists is many of them actually make their money like I do coaching or teaching or they create workshops. What kind of trends have you seen? Are you seeing that as well with your artists who are actually making a living as a artist in a broader sense.
Yeah, the artists that I coach, we have gone deeply into the strategy of multiple streams of income for everybody.
There you go.
Because you cannot have just one. It doesn't work that way anymore. And that means that that's good news and bad news. It makes it more complex. And that's why I'm so adamant that they have to learn some business, and why I have a whole boring section on that in the book, because you're not going to go looking for that when you're browsing on your iPad at night. So, but you need to do it. So they do have things that artists I'm working with now are doing illustrations for books, or writing, in some cases, writing books so another artist can illustrate. That's kind of a tricky navigating for publishing. Okay. But there's self-publishing, they're doing that. They do workshops. I'm working with an artist right now, one of my top earning artists, and she's developing a retreat that she's going to do. She happens to be in Hawaii, so it's a good spot to do something like that.
No kidding.
She also does painting at the hotels. So it's what I call experience-based marketing, where she's actually out there. I called it plein air marketing, because she's out there painting and talking to people. And since marketing is all about relationships that come through conversations in many forms, then this is a really good way for her to market. She has galleries on Hawaii, and she's now expanding to galleries on the mainland as well. She's licensed her work to people who create wallpaper. A lot of her work has the tropical look, but some of it is shifting now. So this is exactly what they do. Another artist, Bruce Marion, he's really interesting. He actually has 3 other pseudonyms, and I don't even know what they are. Which produces completely different art. He's at the top of his game. He's an established artist. And he's in good shape because his wife is a designer, interior designer, and was his manager. So she took a lot of that work out of his hands, and he gets to do things like create new art, create new workshops, and go out there and meet with people about big projects. He's done some really interesting large projects for the University of Houston, for example, where he did all of the artwork for the new student building.
Ooh, that's cool.
Well, so this is how it's possible, and it's doing art, but you have to be very focused, very dedicated. You need a team to get to the higher numbers. You can't do it without a team with higher numbers.
Interesting. So if somebody is just starting out and they're saying to themselves or to their parents or to their family, and they're saying, wow, I really want to, I want to be an artist. I want to make $100,000, but they don't have the money to invest to get the people, to get the gallery. How should they start? What are you finding as far as that goes? How does somebody begin to have it be their job?
Well, most of them nowadays begin by carving out a little bit of time every day to do it. The artist I just talked to you about, Patrice, is a classic example of that. She lived in Wisconsin, and she was the manager of a print place. They did posters, printing for businesses, all kinds of things. And she's the production manager. And she worked there. Her hours were from 9 until 5 every day. So she got up at 3 in the morning and made art from 3 until she went to work. And then when she came back, she would do a little bit more and then repeat and rinse until she had had enough art. And then slowly start doing marketing on the weekends. And it's like anything, if you start with it, for me, the easiest way for people today to do anything is to make an intrusion into your schedule. So if you think, I'm going to do this, and every week I've done this too. I have some things I want to study, and every week on Friday at 2, I'm going to do this. It's like, well, guess what I'm doing today at Friday too? It's not that. So it means really looking seriously at how you're going to take on all the pieces. And working at another job for a while. You can make art in your head. You can make art at lunchtime. There's all kinds of ways. It's a lot of it. Remember I said mindset was really important?
Yep.
If you say, all right, my real job is being an artist, and I have a few things to do first of all, to decide if I want to make that full time. Maybe I just want to do it as a hobby.
Yeah.
That's fine. Nothing wrong with that. It's a lot more relaxing than having to market it. But
Yeah.
but know what it is. And if you want to do that and be the best person at doing that, well, then you look into building a body of signature work. But you do it, I think, a bit at a time. The people that have tried to lurch into, okay, I'm going to do all of this. For example, I have a 12-month program. I've had several people say, I can do this in 3 months.
Whoa.
No, well, not if you're doing all the exercises. You can read it in 3 days. But if you want to do all the exercises, you've got to take time to do it. And besides, you're building your business while you do it. So while you're working at that other job, ideally you get a job that has some creativity in it. But you think creative in everything you do. I mean, Seth Godin has appropriated the word artist for everybody who works. So yeah, I'm a little annoyed with him for doing that, but he's Seth Godin, so he's allowed. But
he's famous for saying it first, anyway.
Yeah. Well, and then never mind. Don't get me down that road because I can tell you where some of this stuff came from. But
I like it when our guests get angry. It's good.
You fit this stuff in when you can if you really want to do it. And if you don't find yourself fitting it in, then you got to wonder if you really want to do it.
That's probably good. If it's becoming, I gave up. I tried painting for years and years and years, and I am not good at it, no matter what the support is for the various artists and teachers I've had. And I realized I was just pursuing it because I thought for some reason I should be able to do it. And once I dropped it, and dropped the should, then I could spend time doing the art that I loved to do and would spend the time to do it, where I would make the time to do it. And I think that that's a leading indicator. Sometimes we get caught up in, well, only artists have to be painters, or artists have to be, craft based, or you have to produce something to sell. And that's not often the case, and it doesn't have to be.
And that's what I say in the book is this is not necessarily going to be something that's going to lead you to doing this, but here's what's involved so you can make an informed decision.
Yes. And it sounds like a lot that's involved is work and building a tribe and building the support. So you have to be prepared to do that. Do people work at it, or is it something that comes more or less naturally if you're working on the right art?
No, it's actually in a lot of cases harder for artists to do this because they don't see that there's a lot of writing involved. This is how I gradually went, hey, all of a sudden I'm writing all day long. I mean, I was an English major. They taught me how to read. They didn't teach me how to write. Well, they taught me how to write analytical papers to get grades. But so
right, that's different.
Artists always surprised at that too. In fact, I did a series for someone for the Writers Fun Zone for Beth Barani on the ABCs of writing for art, about your art, because there is so much writing involved in it. So I think that that's somewhat of an impediment for them sometimes. Also, I was just writing about that this morning too in a post that I did. When I talk to artists my audience is from 40 to the oldest person I've worked with so far is 78. And so that tends to be most of my artists. Most of those, 90% are women. And those people, in some cases, they've gotten to use computers, not a problem, and now they realize, we need a website.
Yeah.
But they stumble over it, and they think when they've done it once, that's enough. And so for those people, well, you could say they need to learn all this other, but maybe they don't. They have a lot of friends who know what they're doing, and if they can learn to market their art person to person and fly under the radar that way, not be on the website, it just means that their audience reach is going to be different.
Yeah.
But I know one artist who hardly ever touches a very nice, simple website, hardly ever touches it because she does only commissions and she's booked 3 years out.
Okay.
Really?
Wow.
Well, that'd be all right to be booked that far ahead. Thought I'd anyone booked that far ahead. Oh my God.
Well, there's a great guitar maker in Portland, Oregon, who's now closed his list for people. He has a 20-year waiting list for his work.
Far out.
Jeffrey, I can't remember his name. Acoustic guitars, amazing acoustic guitars.
Wouldn't want to have a heart attack.
No, that was sad. All those outstanding chits. Well, where can our listeners find you? Where can they find you, and where can they find your book?
Well, they can find me at artistcareertraining.com. And there is a picture of the book on the right-hand side to make it really easy. And you just click there, and it will take you to a page that tells you all about it, what's in it. And then you can order it directly from there.
Are you on
Wonderful.
Twitter? The Twitter?
And yes, I have Twitter, Facebook. All of the links are on my website. So the easiest way is just to click through to those, and you can join those pages as well.
Awesome. All right.
Excellent. Well, we have a couple of other things that we do on the show. You're welcome to stay, or if you want to take off and start celebrating because it's Friday, that's okay too.
I've got a piece of art waiting for me that I've been looking at for the last couple of days, and I finally know what it needs. So I may go do that. I'll hang out for a little bit.
Sure.
Thank you so much. It's been really fun talking with you. I knew that when I listened to the one. I went, oh, good.
Oh. I love getting naive guests. No.
Where they think it's going to be fun. Thank you so much for coming on the show with us. We appreciate it.
My pleasure. Call me back anytime.
Okay, thanks.
All right. Let's do a tortured sentence.
Do a tortured sentence.
Next time, don't put the wrong emphasis on the right syllable. Tortured sentences. After 200 shows, that's still horrifying. I don't know. Anyway.
I always liked it. I still like it. You do a good job with it.
Anyway, this tortured sentence. With one of your classes, I'm assuming?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. All right. It says, one thing that I found convincing about the argument can be found in the 6-point plan. 6-point plan. Number 5. It gives light to the theory those society influences humans. Humans are influenced either through television, media, sports, music, and much more. That's just a train wreck.
Yes, it is. I think my favorite moment was just, again, a runaway train is a good metaphor for this sentence. Humans are influenced either through television, media, sports, music, and much more. So, there's no agreement. You have the either and instead of either or. And then just the much more is this lovely, vague, covering your ass kind of sentence ender there, because it's like, well, there's got to be more, and I don't know what it is, and I have to turn this in, so I'll just say much more.
And it says, it gives light to the theory those society influences humans. A, that doesn't really make sense. And B,
that's right. It doesn't even make sense.
A group of humans is a society, but let's just not think about it too hard.
Try my best bringing these to the show.
Yes. Your head might explode. All right. Should we do a prompt?
Sure.
All right.
So here's the prompt. What is the value of your work? Does all art need to produce financially, or can art be about living in the moment, or in the zone, or just feeling good? Write about all the ways that art nurtures you rather than pays you.
When it comes to value of my work, that depends on the situation.
It can, and there's we always said to our kids and to each other is like, the reason you're getting paid is because people don't want to do it.
Yes, that's right. Or
if it was a super good fun, no one will pay you, and it's not a job. So that's the essence, which is why garbage collectors often make more money than teachers, because garbage collecting is not as fun as teaching. One assumes.
Or like this week, we have a brand new. I don't know if America has Aldi, the store. It's a bit like a Woolworths or whatever.
Oh, okay.
Shopping. Buy your groceries and stuff, but they're a bit weird. You can have like an aisle of lettuce, and then next to it will be 3 TVs and a toaster.
Yeah, that's kind of like we have Costco that will do that, where you buy 3 pounds of bananas, a large screen television, and and baby wipes.
Yes. Well, we've got Costco
Yeah.
here as well, and I think that's why they're here. Anyway, so part of my thing, we've got a job there. They're building them, right? So the store's are under construction. They had a grand opening of a couple of them. And this was bizarre. I am standing there finalising a TV screen that's got adverts on it, set into the wall, and I had a tap on the shoulder. And I turn around, and there's two nutters. I will refer to them as nutters. Said to me, "Excuse me, you with the screen?" I said, "Yes." And they said, "Yeah, on the ad there, it's got toasters at $9. Now, the opening is tomorrow. What aisle can I find the toasters in?"
Oh no.
I'm like, do I look like I work here? And
Did you just, okay, what did you tell them? And then I'll tell you what you should have said.
I said, "I have no idea I'm installing this screen." And then they just started to
not the
mouth off
answer.
something incoherent, and I just ignored them.
No, no, no. You say, "Oh, I am so glad you asked. It'll be on aisle 12. See you tomorrow morning."
Tempting. But I don't know, do you have this when you've got a new store opening, people line up for
Oh, really?
the night before? Yeah, people are camping out. I'm going, why do you need to camp out to buy 6 bottles of Coke for $4?
Well, we do that, excuse me. We do that on Black Friday.
Yeah.
If there's because that's the whole, that's the sale. And people will do it for Apple products, the new iPhone version.
I
They'll
don't
line
get
up
it.
for that. And then they'll line up for, we have is it Republic Beer? Yes. We have a beer company here in Santa Rosa that sells, like, I guess, the best beer in the planet Earth, and it's called Pliny the Younger. And there is a line that's 3 blocks long as we speak to get, and they don't sell it in bottles, they just sell it in growlers. And you have to line up and physically go to the brewery in downtown Santa Rosa to get Pliny the Younger. And so they'll stand in line for that.
I just don't get it. But I don't get why you line up to
I
a
don't
place.
get it either. Apparently, this is like, we're in the case of the beer, it's only released for 2 weeks.
Right, but this is just a store. It's going to be open forever. I can go there
That I
tomorrow.
can
It'll
get.
still
No,
be the same.
I'm with you on the store because it doesn't seem like it would be that important. But sometimes people, that's what they want to do.
But they had the TV crews there, and I had like the cameraman say to me, "Look, we just want to do a promo spot with that screen you've put in. Is it ready to go?" I'm like, "Yeah, that's fine." Right. So, but then
Did you put your logo of your store business underneath it? Hold a
no,
sign.
but we did have an incident where I wasn't responsible for this, but the electrician had wired the screen in incorrectly, and so when they hit the security doors, the screen went blank. So it was like 3, 2, 1. Camera crews, they hit the button, and our screen went blank, and it had, "Please call tech support immediately." And I'm there going, "Jeez, I had the tech support." So you got like 500 people going, "Oh, what happened to that screen? It went black." I'm like, yes, I know.
Okay, I'm glad you didn't have your company logo on it. Good.
Yeah, sorted that out pretty quick. But it was a bit. I had strange looks from people who were lining up and they're right next to it, and I'm standing there with my arm in the air with a remote control going click, click, click. So yeah, you talk about the value of your work. I'm on the phone going, "This is costing you now big time."
Yes.
Anyway, we still.
So just do we could do word of the week.
Yeah, that's actually a fitting word of the week looking at it.
Yeah.
Word of the week, you've got this from A Word a Day, done by Anu Garg. And this word is... Oh, I see, I can't pronounce it. I would have said that as autolichen, but I don't think that's right. Characterized by thievery or trickery. Even the word's like that. It's trickery. It's thievery of the word. Yes, I don't know. You have to read it. You tell me.
It's a Greek myth. The Autoclysius.
Yes.
Autoclythian or Clithian.
Great. You chose this word and you can't even pronounce it.
I did because I like to screw with you. Come on.
Unbelievable. Well, if anyone's listening, can you email me podcast@newbiewriters.com a short grab of how you pronounce this stupid word. It's on our show notes. Feel free.
Oh, I love this. This is such a fun show. Let's keep doing it.
And you can, look, feel free to abuse me. If you want to send me just any abuse, that's fine. I'll happily read it out. You may cop it back. All right, now, I've got Aletta still on with us. You still there?
Yep, still here in the background. Yep.
Is there anyone you want to give a shout out to?
Yeah, Jerry Simmons.
Right.
She's an artist who does most amazing wildlife art currently doing it on scratchboard.
Cool.
And she lives in Coloroy Beach, I believe. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. But yeah, beautiful, beautiful work. And her other passion is she is a cyclist, and she cycles in something called Ride for Rangas.
Rangas.
And
Right.
it's a ride for the orangutans in Indonesia.
Oh,
Right.
how fun.
Yeah, because she does art of them, and her work is exquisite. I swear, you think it's going to breathe.
Well,
I don't know if that would make me really happy on my walls, but
Maybe not. Do you have a small cat? You might not like some of the big animals.
no, I don't think I want a breathing orangutan on my walls.
see,
Yeah.
not to be confused with Ride for Rangers, which is for redheads. See, we call redheads rangers here in Australia.
Oh, because of orangutan?
No, because they got red hair. I don't know.
Well, I mean, because orangutans have red hair.
Oh, right. Well, there you go. So people,
Okay, I want to ask, have you looked at the book cover?
your book
Have you
cover,
Yes.
I had it up a minute ago.
Yeah.
Color is my hair.
Ah, we'll see. Okay, you're a ranger then.
Just in case you weren't insulted before, we'd like to just follow through with the next
I'm not
one.
I knew that would be coming if I didn't bring it up. I'm starting to get the hang of this.
Yes, but I wasn't going to dare say, well, that's because people with red hair are like orangutans. They're not. They're, they're more like the Irish, pasty and redhead.
There you go.
Anyway.
Which is a whole nother level and
No,
angle.
most of the Irish I know are dark-haired with brilliant blue eyes.
Oh, we're getting into World War II all over again.
Yes, we are.
All right. Catherine, is there anyone you want to say hi to? We had a week off, so we've got to have someone.
I would just shout out to one of my clients, Wine Secrets. We do filtration for wine, and we had a great trade show, which is why I was so exhausted last Friday, because there's nothing like a trade show to wipe you out, mostly because you're a bad person and you go out to drink until the late hours and turn right around and stand up for 9 hours and talk to people and sound like you care. So I had a good team. It was a really good event.
Right, so like I say, I'm tired after a heavy day of drinking. You were just hungover. It's fine.
It's just product testing.
Hence why I don't work in the Scotch industry.
Yes.
All right,
That
well,
would have to be like Woolen then.
now, who have we got on next week?
We have Pam Weber, who has written a book called The Wiregrass, and she is published by She Writes Press, which is a press out here in San Francisco. And so got contacted by Brooke Warner, and she said, "Hey, will you have our author on?" I said, "Hey, we would love to." So we'll be interested to talk about that experience with She Writes and see how Pam likes being a first-time author.
Cool, and I'll see how many puns I can get in about cutting the grass.
There you go.
Oh, be very, very careful with that one.
He's never careful. That's part of the deal.
It's part of the train wreck. All right, well, until next week, we'll see you then.
Your book starts here on the Newbie Writers Podcast.